The first time Officer Riley Moore arrested someone, it wasn't supposed to be the woman she'd end up falling in love with. And it definitely wasn't supposed to feel like the her heart pounding louder than the siren behind her. Not from adrenaline, but from something terrifyingly close to longing. Jessica Reed, criminal defense attorney, stood there under the flashing red lights, calm as a storm about to break. Her voice, low and measured, sliced through Riley's professional shell like a knife. "You're making a mistake, officer." Riley hated that she almost smiled. Riley had always been the kind of cop who followed the rules to the letter. She grew up believing justice was black and white, good and bad, lawful and criminal. But New York City had a way of blurring lines, and Jessica Reed was the blurriest of them all, beautiful, brilliant, and known for defending the very people Riley put behind bars. They were opposites in every way. Riley's life was built on order. Jessica thrived on chaos. Riley wore blue, Jessica wore black. Riley believed in right and wrong. Jessica believed everything depended on perspective. And yet, from the moment their eyes met in that chaotic police station lobby, something electric sparked a pull Riley couldn't name and Jessica couldn't ignore. The first time they argued in court, it was explosive. Jessica tore apart Riley's testimony like it was paper, every word sharp, calculated, deliberate. Riley stood tall on the witness stand, furious not because Jessica embarrassed her but because she found herself watching the way Jessica's lips curved when she smirked. When the hearing ended, Jessica brushed past her, whispering just loud enough, "Next time, try to keep up, officer." Riley's jaw tightened. "Next time, maybe don't defend criminals." Jessica stopped, turned, and smiled a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Someone has to stand up for the truth, even when people like you don't want to hear it." And that was it. The spark became fire. Weeks turned into months. They kept crossing paths, sometimes in the courtroom, sometimes at crime scenes, and once, fatefully, at a charity gala neither of them wanted to attend. Riley wore her formal police blues. Jessica wore a sleek, backless gown that made the room turn to look. When Jessica caught Riley staring, she raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect to see the law mingling with the elite. Riley's reply came low, dry, and far too honest. Didn't expect to see a lawyer looking that dangerous. Jessica laughed softly. Dangerous? Or tempting? Riley didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between them said everything. Later that night, on the terrace overlooking the glittering city, they found themselves alone. The air was cold, heavy with unsaid things. "You think I'm the enemy," Jessica said, her voice quieter now, softer. "I think you make me forget what side I'm supposed to be on," Riley admitted. It was reckless, that confession. It could have ended everything or started something neither of them could undo. Jessica's lips parted in surprise, then curved into something almost sad. "Maybe we're both on the wrong side then." When she kissed Riley, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate, like two people fighting the world and losing beautifully. But love like that doesn't come easy. Not when Riley's precinct was watching. Not when Jessica's firm whispered rumors about inappropriate relationships. The city didn't make space for women like them, especially not when one wore a badge and the other defended the accused. Riley tried to end it first. She told herself it was for Jessica's safety, for her career, for her sanity. Jessica listened, tears welling but never falling. "You can walk away from me, Riley, but don't pretend it's because you don't care." Riley's throat tightened. "Caring doesn't make it right." Jessica stepped closer, eyes fierce. "No, but it makes it real." They stayed apart for weeks. Riley threw herself into work, night shifts, patrols, anything to drown the ache. Jessica buried herself in cases, hiding behind legal briefs and court dates. But when tragedy struck, a shooting in the Bronx left a teenage boy dead, and an innocent man accused, Riley and Jessica found themselves on the same side for the first time. Jessica was defending the man everyone else condemned. Riley was the only cop who believed he might be innocent. For once, justice wasn't a line dividing them. It was a bridge. They met in dim coffee shops after midnight, sharing evidence, whispering theories. It felt dangerous, necessary, intoxicating. Somewhere between files and fingerprints, between law and loyalty, their hands brushed and neither pulled away. Riley looked at Jessica one night, exhaustion softening her edges. "You ever think about running away? Just leaving all this?" Jessica smiled, wistful. "All the time. But I'd only go if someone worth it asked me to. Riley's lips curved. Someone like who? Jessica tilted her head, eyes glinting. You tell me, officer. For a second the city outside disappeared, the sirens, the chaos, the noise. There was only them. Two women who shouldn't have found each other. Yet somehow did. And for the first time Riley didn't feel like she was breaking the law. She felt like she was finally doing something right. The morning after the case hit the headlines, Riley woke up to a storm both outside her window and inside her phone. Her precinct chat was exploding. More, you working with Reed now? You sleeping with the enemy? And her captain's message was the worst of them all, my office. Now. Riley groaned, pulling on her uniform, each movement heavy with dread. The mirror reflected someone she barely recognized, tired eyes, clenched jaw, guilt woven into every line of her face. She'd crossed a line and deep down she knew it wasn't just about the case. When she stepped into the captain's office, he didn't even look up from the file in his hand. Tell me it's not true, he said flatly. Riley stood tall, trying to steady her voice. If you mean the investigation, sir, he slammed the file shut. I mean her, Officer Moore. Jessica Reed. I don't care what the hell this is, whatever you think you're doing, it ends. Now. Riley's throat went dry. Sir, she's defending an innocent man. I'm just trying to save your conscience? Or your girlfriend? His voice rose, the words slicing through the air like a whip. The silence that followed was thick. Riley's pulse hammered in her ears. I'm done talking, the captain said finally. You're off the case. Riley's badge suddenly felt heavier than ever. That night, she went to Jessica's apartment. Rain was pounding the streets again, relentless, like it was washing the whole city clean. Jessica opened the door in her robe, surprise flickering in her eyes. You shouldn't be here. I got suspended, Riley said, her voice barely holding steady. Jessica's eyes widened. Because of me? Because I wouldn't stop helping you. For a long moment neither spoke. The city outside was a blur of thunder and neon. Then Jessica stepped aside, her voice soft. Come in. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and fresh ink. Case files were scattered across the table, glowing under the warm light of a single lamp. Jessica poured them both wine without asking. You should have let it go, Riley. I can't, Riley said. He's innocent. You know it. And so do I. Jessica sighed, leaning against the counter. You think this is just about one man's innocence? It's bigger than that. Corruption, dirty politics, these people don't care about the truth. Then let's make them care, Riley said, her voice fierce. Jessica looked at her, eyes glistening. You sound like someone who still believes the system works. And you sound like someone who's given up. Jessica's laughter was hollow. Maybe I have. You would too if you'd seen what I have. Something in Riley cracked. Don't tell me what I'd do. I've seen things you couldn't imagine, kids dying in my arms, mothers begging for justice that never comes. You think I'm naive? I joined the force because I wanted to believe people like us could change something. Jessica's expression softened. People like us? Riley hesitated. The words hung between them, dangerous, true, electric. You and me, Riley said quietly. Maybe we're not that different. Jessica took a step forward, then another. Then why does it hurt so much to love you? Riley didn't answer. She just reached for her, pulling Jessica in like she was the only thing real left in the world. Their kiss was soft at first, trembling with everything they couldn't say, fear, anger, longing, guilt. Then it deepened, urgent, defiant, as if loving each other was the only rebellion they had left. Later, they lay together in silence, the rain still whispering against the windows. Jessica traced lazy circles on Riley's arm. Do you ever think about what happens when this ends? Riley exhaled. I try not to. But you know it can't last, right? Riley turned to face her. Why not? Jessica's eyes searched hers. Because love doesn't survive in places like this. Not between people like us. Riley smiled sadly. Then let's prove it can. Jessica stared at her for a long time before whispering, You're impossible. And you're worth it. Days passed. Riley, officially off duty, worked in secret, digging into police reports, hidden files, anything that could prove the accused man's innocence. She found inconsistencies. Forged statements, missing evidence, signatures that didn't match. When she showed Jessica what she'd found, Jessica's voice trembled. This could bring down half the department. Then let it fall, Riley said. They deserve it. Jessica shook her head. You don't understand. If we go public with this, they'll come after you. You'll lose everything. Riley met her gaze steady and sure. Then at least I'll lose it for something that matters. Jessica's eyes softened, pride and fear mixing. God, Riley, you make me believe in things I swore I'd stopped believing in. Then don't stop, Riley whispered. But the city was always listening. One night, as Riley left Jessica's apartment, two men in plainclothes were waiting by her car. Officer Moore, one said. We need you to come with us. When she refused, they flashed internal affairs badges. At the precinct, they showed her photos, grainy, intimate, impossible to deny. Her and Jessica. Together. Riley's stomach dropped. Conflict of interest. Breach of conduct. One of them said, flipping through papers. You realize what this means, right? Riley's voice was ice. You've been following me. Following her, the man corrected. But you made it easy. The next morning, Jessica's name was on the news. Defense attorney accused of misconduct with NYPD officer. Her firm suspended her pending investigation. Reporters swarmed her office, her apartment, her life. When Riley showed up, Jessica looked broken, hair unkempt, voice raw. You shouldn't be here. I'm not leaving you to face this alone, Riley said. Jessica's laugh was bitter. You already did. You chose the badge. Riley froze. That's not fair. Fair. Jessica snapped. You think any of this is fair? You get to walk into your job, hide behind your uniform. I lose everything because I loved you. Her voice cracked on the last word. Riley took a step closer. Then let me fix it. Jessica shook her head, tears spilling. You can't fix what the world doesn't want to understand. For days, Riley didn't sleep. She dug deeper into reports, files, evidence tampering. The corruption ran deeper than she'd feared. It wasn't just the case. It was the entire precinct. When she brought her findings to an honest prosecutor she trusted, he warned her. If you go through with this, you're done. You'll lose your badge. Riley just said, then I'll lose it for her. The final trial came fast. Jessica stood in court, hands trembling slightly but her voice steady. Riley sat in the back, eyes locked on her. Jessica called the surprise witness, the internal affairs officer who'd been bribed to plant fake evidence. One by one, the lies unraveled. The courtroom buzzed with shock. When the judge dismissed the charges, Jessica finally allowed herself to breathe. She turned and found Riley standing there in civilian clothes, smiling through tears. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. But outside, under the flashing lights and shouting reporters, Jessica took Riley's hand. Just once. Just long enough to say, we did it. That night, they met at the same terrace where they first kissed. The city glittered below them, alive, indifferent. Jessica looked at her, eyes filled with something new, hope. You're really not going back, are you? Riley shook her head. I think I've had enough of saving everyone else. Maybe it's time I save myself. Jessica smiled faintly. And me. Riley took her hand. You were never mine to save. You saved me. For a long time they just stood there, two women who had risked everything and somehow found peace in the ruins. Jessica leaned her head against Riley's shoulder. You know, if someone wrote about us, no one would believe it. Riley chuckled softly. Then I guess we'll have to keep proving them wrong. The wind swept through the terrace, carrying away the last remnants of fear and doubt. In a city built on noise, they finally found quiet. The world didn't stop when Riley turned in her badge, but it felt like it did. The moment she laid it on the captain's desk, cold metal gleaming under fluorescent light, something inside her shifted. For years that badge had defined her. Who she was, what she stood for, how she walked through life. But now it just felt like a weight she'd been carrying for too long. When she stepped out of the precinct, the winter air hit her face like a baptism. She didn't look back. Jessica found her later that night, sitting on the hood of her old car, parked by the Hudson River. The city skyline glittered in the distance, but Riley was staring at her reflection in the water, lost in thought. Jessica approached quietly, her breath fogging in the cold air. You really did it. Riley turned, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Yeah. Guess I'm officially unemployed. Jessica sat beside her, their shoulders brushing. I thought you'd regret it. Maybe tomorrow, Riley said. But not tonight. Jessica laughed softly, her eyes tracing the skyline. You always said you'd die in that uniform. I think I just realized living means more, Riley murmured. And I'd rather live with you. Jessica's hand found hers, their fingers lacing easily, naturally, as if they'd done this 1,000 times before. They moved upstate 2 weeks later, far from the chaos of the city, far from judgmental eyes and whispered rumors. Jessica left her firm and opened a small legal aid office. Riley took a part-time job teaching self-defense at a community center. It wasn't glamorous, but it was theirs. Their new home was a modest cottage near the edge of a lake, surrounded by pine trees and quiet. Every morning the light would spill through the curtains, catching dust motes and the warmth of coffee brewing. Riley would stand barefoot by the stove making breakfast. Jessica would be at the table reading the paper, glasses perched on her nose. Sometimes Riley would just stand there, watching her, this woman who had once been a symbol of everything forbidden, and think, how did I get this lucky? But peace doesn't erase the past. One evening Jessica came home late, her expression tense. Riley immediately noticed. Rough day. Jessica dropped her bag on the counter. A client. Young girl. Fired for who she loves. I'm helping her file a discrimination case. Riley nodded slowly. You think she'll win? Jessica's jaw tightened. She should. But people still see what they want to see. Riley walked over, wrapping her arms around Jessica from behind. Then we'll make them see. Jessica leaned into her, exhaling. You still talk like a cop. Riley grinned. Old habits. Months passed. Seasons shifted. The lake froze and thawed and bloomed again. Their lives settled into a rhythm that felt like healing, quiet, steady, real. On weekends, they drove into town to buy groceries and flowers. The locals had grown used to seeing them together, though now and then there were still stares, hushed voices. But Jessica had stopped flinching. Riley would just reach for her hand in plain sight, daring anyone to look away first. Once at a diner, an older woman smiled at them and said, You two remind me of me and my late wife. Jessica blinked in surprise. Riley smiled. Thank you. The woman nodded knowingly. Took me 40 years to live like it wasn't a sin. Don't you wait that long. When the woman left, Jessica turned to Riley, eyes glistening. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? Riley reached across the table, brushing her thumb over Jessica's hand. Yeah, but then we wouldn't be here. One summer night, thunder rolled in again, just like the first night they kissed. Rain drummed against the roof as lightning painted the sky in pale flashes. Jessica stood by the window staring out. It's strange, she said softly, how storms used to mean chaos to me. Now they just remind me of us. Riley came up behind her, resting her chin on Jessica's shoulder. Because we survived one? Jessica smiled faintly. Because we became one. Riley chuckled, kissing the side of her neck. You always were the poetic one. Jessica turned, eyes dark and warm. You make me want to be. Their lips met slowly, tenderly, with none of the desperation of the past, just a quiet certainty that they'd earned this peace. Later, lying tangled together in bed, Jessica whispered, Do you ever miss it? The badge. Riley thought for a long moment. Sometimes. Not what it turned into, but what it meant. Protecting people. Doing something right. Jessica ran her fingers through Riley's hair. You're still doing that. Just differently. Riley looked up at her. You really believe that? Jessica smiled. You taught me to. Riley closed her eyes, breathing her in, letting the warmth of the moment sink deep into her bones. The years went by gently. The city became a distant memory, a chapter they no longer needed to reopen. They built a garden behind the house, filled it with lavender and tomatoes. Riley learned to cook properly. Jessica started writing again, essays about justice, love, and the quiet revolution of living authentically. One of her articles, titled The Things We Choose to Save, went viral online. It spoke about truth, courage, and a love that didn't fit into anyone's mold. She never named Riley, but the world knew. The morning it published, Riley found Jessica sitting on the porch, laptop on her knees, tears on her cheeks. Riley knelt beside her. Hey, what's wrong? Jessica looked up and smiled through the tears. Nothing. For once, nothing's wrong. Riley brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then what are these? Jessica laughed shakily. Happy tears. The world finally said something nice about me. Riley chuckled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. About time. Years later, when the lake froze again, they walked across it hand in hand. The air was sharp, their breath visible in soft clouds. Jessica squeezed Riley's hand. You ever think about how scared we were? All the time. And yet here we are. Riley nodded, smiling. Here we are. They stopped in the middle of the frozen lake. The world was silent except for the faint groan of ice and the whisper of wind through the trees. Jessica looked at her, eyes soft. If someone told me back then that love would lead me here, Riley interrupted gently. You wouldn't have believed them. Jessica smiled. No. But I would have wanted to. Riley pulled her close. Then maybe that's the point. We don't fall in love because it's easy. We do it because it's worth it. Jessica rested her forehead against hers. You always know what to say. Only with you. That night, by the fireplace, Jessica handed Riley a small box. Riley frowned playfully. What's this? It's not my birthday. Jessica smiled shyly. Open it. Inside was a silver ring, simple, elegant, engraved with 2 words, still here. Riley's throat tightened. Jess. Jessica took her hand. It's not about marriage or labels or the world. It's just a reminder. After everything we lost, after everything they tried to take, we're still here. Riley swallowed hard, tears stinging her eyes. Yeah, we are. She slipped the ring on and whispered. You know what's funny? The badge always used to remind me who I was. Now this does. Jessica smiled, leaning in. Then I guess justice was served in its own way. Riley laughed softly, pulling her in. You're such a lawyer. And you're still my favorite criminal, Jessica teased. They kissed slow and deep, as the fire crackled beside them. Years later, when Riley's hair had gone gray at the edges and Jessica's laugh lines deepened, they still took long walks by the lake. They still held hands in public. They still argued about movies and made up over tea. One afternoon, as they sat watching the sunset paint the water gold, Jessica whispered, Do you ever think we changed anything? Riley smiled. Maybe not the whole world. But we changed ours. That's enough. Jessica nodded, her eyes shining. Enough. They sat there until the light faded, until the stars came out, quiet witnesses to a love that had defied fear, silence, and time itself. The world moved on as it always does. But somewhere near a quiet lake upstate, 2 women who had once fought everything just to hold each other were still there, still laughing, still loving, still proving that even the most impossible love stories can end in peace. And sometimes on stormy nights, when thunder rolled and rain began to fall, Riley would smile and say, Remember our first storm? Jessica would laugh softly, leaning her head on her shoulder. How could I forget? You arrested me. Riley grinned. Best mistake I ever made. Jessica would kiss her, and the world outside would disappear again, just as it had the very first time. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.